Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here. Hope you're happy, healthy and well. Today is something a little bit different. I'm actually going to talk about some graphic novels that I have been reading. You might be thinking, graphic novels, you don't usually read that. Well, that's right, I don't usually read it. However, my husband here is a huge graphic novel fan. He has got we've got a lot of collections from different cartoonists. And in fact, even my father is a cartoonist as well. So I don't know why I don't read more graphic novels than I should. However, I have got 4 here that I'd like to talk about. Now, these graphic novels are part of a concept that was started by Hannah's Books that was shared on Heather's YouTube channel. And so I'll have both ladies, their YouTube channels below. Now, it was the idea that came from Hannah's Books. And she said, why don't we, for the month of September, read and also share any reviews of books that are related to art. So in effect, she's encouraging us to go out of our comfort zone and read something that is a little bit different to what we usually read. So I thought, right, I'll do that. I went to my local library, well, one of the local libraries, because I'm a member of 7 around here, so it was one out of the 7. And this particular library has a great collection of graphic novels. And these graphic novels, except for one, was recommended by the librarian, who I found out was the person who was creating these collections at the library. Now, first of all, I want to talk about a book that wasn't in the library, but it was a book that got me interested in graphic novels. And many years ago when I was on Twitter, I used to follow Nick Sasanis, who is a lecturer at a university. Now, I don't know if he's still there. It says here that he's an assistant professor of humanities and liberal studies at San Francisco State University. Given that I'm not on the socials anymore, I kind of lost contact with a whole heap of the people I used to follow, so I'm not sure what they're doing unless I specifically look into them. Nick Sasanis introduced me to this idea of thinking differently, thinking not by words and not writing by words, all about presenting concepts in an art format. And he actually runs courses on how to encourage students to do that very thing. Now, this particular book of his is called Unflattening, and I bought it because this was about a few years ago. I bought it because I was interested in, I guess, how people are thinking and the importance of being able to not think like the crowd and not follow the crowd. And back at the time when I was on the socials, I did write about the idea of creativity, the idea of kind of exploring, being an explorer in your own world, being curious and thinking differently from the others. And I think what Nick has done here with regards to his work is pretty much exactly that, what he's talking about, that we need to kind of present our ideas and our knowledge in different ways. And he does it in a graphical format. And I love this book because it was his PhD thesis. It's so interesting because he basically broke this idea that a PhD thesis has to be a very thick, very heavy text, and instead it is in a graphical novel format. That was my first introduction, I guess, to graphic novels that really stretched the boundary and the boundary of thinking. Now, the three graphic novels I want to talk about are, and I'll talk about them each in their own way. I had no idea about who these artists are, but the librarian told me that in his research, he effectively researched graphic novelists all around the world, and these were some of their best works. This is Paco Roca's latest one called Return to Eden, where he talks about the life of Antonia, his mother, gives a glimpse into the region of Valencia in Spain during the Franco region. And I really like this book because he melded both photographs of the time with the story and the artwork, and it was, I guess, a homage to his mother, who was trying to recollect those days back in 1946, and it gave us a little snippet of what life was like, that how difficult it was for people back then, and how poor people were, and how they had to deal with a fascist government. I like this book, and it was one that I thought, right, I have to start looking into his other works, because I really also resonated with the time and place, simply because it is a story, I guess, that I've also heard from my own parents who had to deal with similar regimes around the same time, but in Greece. This next one was fantastic. I loved it. If you're not a fan of graphic novels, because maybe you don't like reading them, doesn't matter. There's no words in this one. This is purely a story through graphics, through artworks. And it is a lovely story where you follow the different characters all around the story of a park bench that is under a tree. Who sits on that park bench, the conversations they have, which of course you don't read, you can only see through the mannerisms. And you know, when I was reading this, I thought to myself, a picture says 1,000 words. It certainly does, because you get an entire storyline just through the pictures only. It is wonderful. This one I loved, and I'm going to look into his other work. Apparently he wrote, this is Chaboutier, I would say. He's a French graphic novelist. He's written another one called Seul, which is Alone, and I'm going to look out for it, because I really, really loved this one. So much so that I took this one to my parents. In fact, I took them all to my parents. My mother, who has limited English, loved this one. She read it, and this was her first graphic novel that she had read, and she raved about this one too. She loved it. I thought to myself, wow, this is another opportunity to get my mum also interested in graphic novels, even with a limited English, because it would be something that she would read and understand as well. Chaboutier's The Park Bench, highly recommend. And this one from Dutch cartoonist, Dutch graphic novelist Amy de Jong, Days of Sand. I love this book. I love this so much that I read it in the one sitting. The artwork here was brilliant. It was also a great story about someone who has to go into the depth of the American basin at the time of the Dust Bowl, which was in 1937, to take photos for a newspaper. So he's a photographer, but he's fighting his own demons about a relationship that he had with his father as well. And what he sees when he gets out to the Dust Bowl, the hard work that people do to fight the sand and the dust, and the difficulties they have, but also the kindness of these strangers to him, makes him realize a few things about his life. And what I loved about this one was not only the graphics, also the fact that it was based on a true story. There was also at the back of the book, there was the information about how those photographers did go out into those parts of America to take the stories from the people and share them. Now, for those of you who have read Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, that was around the time when when everyone was leaving these regions of America to head to California for a better life, to escape the dust and the sand. It's just an amazing story, and I loved how Amy de Jong actually has the non-fiction, the story about it, and the photographs here at the back of the book, but then she creates an entire storyline with her artwork of this time. So they are my reading for Framed in September. These are all excellent graphic novels, and what I would suggest, that if you want to give it a go reading graphic novels, I'd say visit your library first, because they might have a collection there. Graphic novels are a little bit more expensive than buying novels, and they are just a different way of reading these. They immerse you completely and wholeheartedly into the story, but not only the story, your eyes have a visual feast of the artwork, and each of these artworks are all different to each other. I mean, my father asked me, are they hand drawn, or are they computer generated, as in using different computers and laptops to create, and also tablets to create the artworks. But I don't know about that, and so I'd be interested if any of you out there know more details about the actual graphic artwork process, because to me, I don't really mind whether they're hand drawn or whether they're done on a laptop or a tablet, simply because I actually like the idea of the concept of someone drawing and writing that concept down. As long as it's not driven by AI, or the story by AI, that it is written and drawn by a human, whatever tools they use, I don't really care, as long as it's not generated, the idea is not generated by artificial intelligence. Because ultimately, to me, these are stories that allow you to immerse yourself into the time and place, but also the emotions of the people, because you actually, rather than having it in your head, you see these emotions drawn out on paper. So that is all I have for you today. Let me know what you think. What is going to be your Framed in September theme, and what are you going to share? So let me know what you think. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.